think we are live. I'm not too sure. Let me see here. All right, I'm going to trust that we're live. I don't know. Let me see. Actually, hold on. Let me go here. YouTube. And are we live? Okay, we're live. We're live. We're live. Okay, it's official. We're live. All right, guys. So give me a few seconds. This is my first time doing this. I wanted to practice it. All right. So it says we're live. I'm gonna trust that we're live, and I'm gonna go ahead and go. If it doesn't work, oh well. We'll try again next week. All right. So let me go live on the gram. Get everything set up. And put a comment here. Part 3. What's up, guys? Taylor Nixon here. Part 3 of key takeaways. Key takeaways. All right, so we're going to get started here shortly. All right, so I am here. I'm doing this. Okay, so let's get started. Hello everyone. Happy Sunday, my favorite day of the week. Hope everyone had a great weekend. The sun is like shining on my face as always at this time of the day. It's like right there. But yeah, so this week, first of all, let me just reintroduce myself. My name is Taylor Nixon, and you are tuned in to episode 3 of Takeaways with Tay. This is where I provide you with key takeaways when from reading books, nonfiction books, so that you don't have to. And books with topics related to self-improvement, fostering healthy relationships, and building community. So this week's book, we are focused on David R. Hawkins, the author who wrote Power versus Force. And so last week we talked about the map of consciousness, and this week I wanted to share 5 takeaways from reading part 2. So last week was part 1. Part 1 was, the map of consciousness, and we dove deep into that, understanding that and how it relates to our everyday lives. And then this week part 2 is all about, what is power, what is force, and how we can recognize the 2 different oppositions in our everyday life. So let's get into it. And like I said, I'm going to give 5 takeaways from when I was reading it, at least from part 2, and then we'll get into part 3 next week. So let's start with power and force. Imagine there's 2 superheroes, right? So you have superhero power, and then you have the superhero named Force. And they're both trying to move a rock, right? So there's this rock, and we're not even gonna like factor in the weight of the rock or anything like that, but there's a rock that they're both trying to move. And the way that Force is going to approach moving the rock is that Force is going to try to use physical muscle and will to just push the rock, right? Move the rock, get it out of its way. Which may or may not work, not no whatever, but it may or may not work. Power, on the other hand, is going to look at the situation, assess the rock, assess their strengths, assess their weaknesses, assess, the resources available, assess timing and things of that nature. So it's going to take the whole picture put the whole thing into perspective. And power is going to rely on inner strength and wisdom and guidance to push that rock. So essentially, the force and power, they're both trying to move this rock. But force is gonna look at the situation solely from a physical standpoint of like just strength, physical muscle and strength, trying to get a rock to move. And power is gonna look at it from an inner standpoint of like what are all the, let's look at the big picture of everything. So with that in mind, there's some key takeaways here. Part 2 is all about how to recognize power and force in our everyday lives, and how to recognize the interactions that we have with the two, because essentially the book insinuates that power is a better way of going about cultivating peace, joy, happiness, and like those higher states of consciousness, human consciousness in our everyday lives. So first takeaway was just understanding the different levels of human consciousness, which we kind of talked about that last week. And we looked at the map, and the map started off at the bottom of the map, which are like the lower levels of human consciousness. We have emotions such as like grief, apathy, anger, jealousy, what else? Self-doubt, shame, all of those lower levels of human consciousness. And then as we get higher and higher on the map, we have levels of neutrality, acceptance, joy, love, what else? Courage, willingness, and all those other aspects. So first we have to just understand that there are different levels of our human consciousness and our experience in this world. And with that understanding, just knowing, it helps us navigate our interactions with people, because when I'm more aware of what it is that I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, then I can help either put myself in a situation to feel more of like those positive things, or if I need to take something out of my situation, or like remove myself from a situation that I know that is not good for me, then I can also make that decision as well. But it's all about just having that awareness so that we can make better choices. I was reading something this past week that was telling me, it gave me the statistics of how many choices we make in a day. And I want to quote the source specifically because I don't want to be wrong. But okay, so psychological science says that the average adult makes anywhere between 30,000 to 35,000 choices in one day, which is that's a lot of choices. Like, and I mean, conscious, unconscious. Of course, we make choices like when we're gonna brush our teeth, what time we're gonna eat, when we're gonna shower, if we're gonna go get a haircut, get our hair done. We make those everyday choices. But choices that we might not know that are affecting our lives, such as like who we choose to spend our time with. What conversations we choose to engage in, what relationships we choose to be in, and why. Choices of like what job to go after, and being able to have some foresight into that, and like picking things that we're gonna benefit from. Maybe not like immediately, but being able to have that vision of like, if I make this decision now, 5 years from now, I'll have X, Y, and Z. So like basically being able to set ourselves up for what we want in life. And so I thought that it was interesting to know, like, you know, like these choices that we're making affect us, and they affect the people around us. And when we are more aware of ourselves and what we're feeling and what we're experiencing on a given day, we're able to make better choices that will ultimately not only affect ourselves in a good way, but will affect the people that we love and the people that love us. So that was the first takeaway. Second takeaway from reading is just learning how to transcend negative emotions. You know, like experiencing anger, pain, and like what we would consider negative emotions. That's a natural part of the human existence, and it's not like we should run from those experiences, you know, or like act like they don't exist, but just learning how to take those experiences and get over them, transcend them, you know, not act like they don't exist, but just exist, living kind of like with them. You know, it's kind of like going with the water, going with the flow. If I'm angry today, you know, I'm angry. Like acknowledging I'm angry, acknowledging what made me angry, like what put me in this state of anger, and then doing what I need to do to get out of it, you know. So the second takeaway is all about transcending negative emotions. And you know, the way that we do that, force is going to try to suppress those negative emotions. You know, force is going to try to act like those emotions don't exist, and they're not there. And power, on the other hand, is going to embrace those negative emotions as opportunities for growth. And self-reflection. You know, like me being angry is not something that I should run from. It's something that I should sit here and ask myself, why am I angry? You know, what happened? What did so-and-so do, or what did I do or did not do? What is it that's making me feel this way? And allowing it to be felt, you know, being present and feeling that emotion. That's what power is all about. So the third takeaway here is cultivating positive qualities. And by that, you know, positive qualities such as love, compassion, joy, and creating a space for that in our everyday lives. You know, like the higher states of human consciousness are fulfilling, you know, and they bring happiness, but they also contribute to the well-being of the world. You know, like when I feel good about myself, people feel that, and it's like a domino effect. You know, I can like kind of rub off on somebody, you know. It's also the same for like if somebody comes in a room and they don't feel too well, you know, they kind of like project this negativity into everyone, which might not necessarily always be fair. So yeah, the third key takeaway is just practicing acts of kindness, you know, gratitude, forgiveness, and nurturing these qualities within ourselves so that we can promote a more loving and compassionate society. That's the third takeaway. Fourth takeaway is it was choosing power over force. So basically, like we talked about this concept of power, what power is, what force is. And, you know, we kind of looked at it as a sense of like superheroes. Like you got superhero force, you got a superhero power. They both trying to move a rock. The way force is gonna approach the rock is force is literally gonna try to force the rock to move, you know, and use like physical strength to get the rock to move. Power is going to look at the rock, look at the situation, assess the situation, and try to find the most feasible, least effort attempt to move this rock. And so like that's just putting it into like this analogy. But when we're talking about power versus force in our everyday lives, we're talking about, you know, certain situations where we might use one of the two, because we have to keep in mind like we are capable of using either power or force in our everyday interactions. And of course, you know, the book suggests that we use power because it comes from a more inner state of wisdom. You know, it requires more wisdom to come from that standpoint, and plus you benefit better when you use power versus force. So fourth key takeaway was just recognizing the differences between the two interactions, power and force, in our everyday lives, and recognizing that power comes from inner strength, authenticity, alignment with yourself, and alignment with higher principles. And force is more about like manipulation and control. Manipulation and control. And the book, I like how the book uses examples like in our everyday lives of like where we can see power, where we can see force in our everyday lives. So like, for example, we might see power and force in politics, you know, with force being there's like this forced upon narrative that a political candidate may be trying to put out there, whereas power is, I'm trying to think of a good example. A better one would be like with products, marketing. So like with force, you know, you might lie about a product as a marketer. You might lie about a product like it's the best product, it's gonna make your hair grow, and you know you should buy it because it's gonna make your hair grow, blah 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 blah. You know, and like, you know, you end up spending $20 on it because you believe it. You believe in this power of this product. Then you use the product and you're like, what is this? You know, like you just the person feels like cheated, manipulated. You might make a profit, you know, but it's not going to be sustained over time because eventually people are going to catch on. Power, on the other hand, is going to actually have a good product, like not just talk and say that the product is good for your hair, but actually like show your results, you know, give you good reviews and things like that to kind of back it up. So yeah, that was the fourth takeaway. And the fifth takeaway was all about just embracing neutrality and acceptance, you know, in life. Because when you think about it, like neutrality and acceptance, we can use them as tools for navigating life's challenges, because life is going to present us with challenges, you know, it's inevitable. I think we're at an age, or at least, you know, I'm at an age, and I feel like a lot of my audience is at an age where we've experienced enough life to know that it doesn't always go the way we want it to go, and it's not always here. You know, life is not always like at the top of the mountain. Sometimes we have like peaks and valleys, and we have to be able to navigate those. And so like in order to navigate those peaks and valleys of being you know, in the Naomi, I'm gonna answer your question. I'm gonna get you in just a second, Naomi. Hey, what's up, girl? What's up? What's up, Lou? But yeah, so like in navigating those peaks and valleys of life, you know, being able to have some a grounding, if you will, of like a grounding and a sense of like, all right, I'm in this situation. It doesn't define me, you know, it doesn't take anything away from me. It's here to build my character, you know, it's here to build me up. And as long as I see it from that, I can take the situation and use it to my advantage. That's all about embracing what it is that we're experiencing, what it is that we're going through, and learning how to accept it. So I'm going to answer this question. It says, how do you plan on taking advantage of these takeaways? How do you plan on taking advantage of these takeaways in your everyday life? Good question. So, you know, as I'm reading, typically, I like to like highlight and underline different things. But I also like to reread because it's a lot. Like this is a lot to go through. But honestly, it's the biggest thing is I'll focus on one thing like that I read that resonated the most. And like usually it resonates the most because it's probably the most relevant to what it is that I'm going through at that time. But I'll take that one thing and focus on it, and then just focus on finding or like being more aware of those everyday interactions in my life, to where I'm able to like say, okay, I recognize this, you know, like in my life. I recognize how this might be holding me back in this area, or like really just taking it and like becoming more aware. You know, I think that's the biggest thing that I do when I have these when I'm reading these books and I'm getting these takeaways, it's just like, it's giving me a sense of awareness of like, dang, I wasn't aware of that, you know, a while back. Now I'm like more aware of how I am in this situation, or like, you know, how I might be in another situation. But also too, I'm glad you asked the question, because I want to make this more interactive, and like I really want to know how you guys like see, you know, power and force in your everyday lives, and like if you recognize situations where you feel like it's a forceful thing, or if you feel like you might be approaching it from a more inner wisdom state, you know. So like for those of you who are on here, let's see, yeah, how do you navigate a situation where, let's say you're having a bad day, right? And you having a bad day and you feel like everybody's just getting on your nerves, right? Like, how do you navigate that situation? Do you just stay in the fact that you're just having a bad day and like, you know, accept it and just let your day end badly, or like, you know, how do you flip it and turn it around? So while y'all are answering that, what's up, Nate? How are you doing? While you guys are answering that, so I'm gonna go ahead and I guess give a little sneak peek into next week. Next week is all about part 3, and then we'll be all finished with Power versus Force, and we'll be on to the next book. I have like so many books on the list right now. There's been a couple requests for Atomic Habits. So I'm going to get back into that, and I've read like a little bit of it, but not enough to like give my takeaways. So yep. But without further ado, that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in for another Sunday of Takeaways with Tay, where I provide you with key takeaways from books. I read the book so you don't have to. And you can consider it the official book club for busy readers. You know, if you can't read the book for whatever reason, you want to read the book, but you just haven't gotten into it yet, you know, consider this like your inspiration, your little drop of inspiration. Go ahead and read it, or at least to kind of give you like a push to read that book, because it's going to be good. It's going to be beneficial for you. And, you know, we have to make time for things that we enjoy. So if you enjoy reading, if you enjoy talking about it, this is the episode for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a happy Sunday. Bye.